Everyone knows that Dave Grohl is the nicest guy in rock.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah.
I think I've just met the nicest guy in rock and roll.
And I love Dave's dark side, too. He's a sick little booger.
In an age where nothing is shocking and it seems like every week somebody that you thought was good and pure has some type of scandal surface. But a few things always seemed guaranteed. Death, taxes, and Dave Grohl could never, would never do any wrong. But on September 10th, 2024, we refreshed our feeds to see this black font on a white background. I've recently become the father of a new baby daughter, born outside of my marriage. I plan to be a loving and supporting parent to her. I love my wife and my children, and I'm doing everything I can to regain their trust and earn their forgiveness. We're grateful for your consideration toward all the children involved as we move forward together. Damn, Dave Grohl, the nicest guy in rock, not only cheated on his wife, but is having a daughter with the woman he cheated with. Dave Grohl, the family man, the rock star, who takes a break from recording what would be a Grammy award-winning album to swim with his little girl. Puts car seats in the band van so he can drop the kids off at school.
See, it's a rock star vehicle, then I look in the back here, and you've got the baby seat.
Well, you know, kids gotta get to school somehow.
A man that we should all aspire to be like, betrayed the trust of his family and the trust of his fans. Well, maybe that last part is a little over the top, or is it? Dave Grohl has worked very hard to prove to us that he is the nicest guy in rock. Now the curtain has been lifted to show that he is just another dirtbag who used his children to trick us, to trick the world. So before we continue here, I'm going to make a quick note on my bias with this video. I am a huge Dave Grohl fan. In my high school years, I was obsessed. When I finally discovered Nirvana on my own, and just a note, Kurt had been gone for about 20 years when I was in high school. My love of Dave Grohl threw me into an obsession with Queens of the Stone Age, the greatest rock band of all time. I mean, I even started listening to the Arctic Monkeys because Dave said offhandedly in an interview that their drummer was great. And when this news came out last week, I was definitely taken aback, but I wasn't heartbroken about it. But it did start me thinking, does this take away from the nicest guy in rock moniker? And how did that even come about? There's no way this was his goal. Was it? If you simply Google, why is Dave Grohl the nicest guy in rock, lists come up about why the Foo Fighters frontman is so beloved. And it's mostly stories and notably anecdotes about Dave just simply doing nice things. There are 3 different stories about Dave grilling for firefighters, volunteering at a food bank, putting in a 16-hour shift at a soup kitchen, feeding nearly 500 homeless people. And these aren't things you're going to find on Dave's or the Foo Fighters social media accounts. These are regular people, or I guess organizers of these events, snapping these photos and telling these stories. I know you could pick that apart, but let's be real. You're not putting in a 16-hour shift for good press. There's a kindness shown to fans, such as giving a girl his own shoe because his doctor said her foot would never heal unless she put a shoe on. Or this story of him having 3 different run-ins with a fan who has cerebral palsy. This was a quote from an article that ran in The Guardian a few years ago titled, "Is Dave Grohl the nicest guy in rock?" My friend Giles has a sister with severe cerebral palsy who is a massive Foo Fighters fan. After watching them at Reading one summer, Giles and his sister waited outside the artist area hoping to get a glimpse of Grohl. Sure enough, eventually he appeared, strolling on his own across the field. As he saw Giles' sister, he walked up to her and asked, "Aren't you the girl who has sent us pictures of you dancing to our music?" As she nodded yes, he gave her a big hug with a beaming smile and spent 20 minutes chatting to her before eventually wandering off to the canteen. This story goes on to detail how, a few weeks later, this girl saw Dave Grohl drumming for Queens of the Stone Age, where he saw her and invited her to a video shoot the next day, spending time with her between takes. Again, this is not documented anywhere other than it's just a personal anecdote. Nandy Bushell was another great story. Dave engaged in an online drum battle that culminated with the 11-year-old joining the band on stage during a show at the LA Forum in 2021. There's a childlike wonder to Dave Grohl. He's just a music fan. And in being a fan of the things that Dave is a part of, it can feel like you're a fan with Dave and not a fan of Dave.
No. Celebrate me.
I'm not going to get into charity work that he does outside of, obviously, the cooking that I mentioned a moment ago, but we also have the Beaconsfield miner incident in 2006. A mine collapsed, trapping 2 miners for 2 weeks, and all they asked for was food, water, and Foo Fighters songs. And obviously, Dave didn't save these 2 men, but he wrote a song in their honor and brought them to some shows. And he is quick to return the gratitude that is given to him. Finally, though, there is more I could go through. There was the whole Broken Leg tour.
I think I just broke my leg. I think I really broke my leg.
Dave broke his leg early on during a set in Sweden in 2015. And instead of going to a hospital, he finished the show with the doctor holding his leg in place for hours. And it's things like that, to most anyways, that show a dedication to providing the fans with what they want. It's a wild move to keep playing a show after you broke your leg, and it probably wasn't smart for the healing process. But he did it because he wanted the people in attendance to get the show that they paid for. I'm going to be honest, it isn't easy to find stories of Dave being a bad dude or an asshole. You could watch any number of Courtney Love interviews, I guess, and there are little comments here and there from musicians that don't seem to be the biggest fans of Grohl, but nothing that's really worth talking about. Now, I am bearing the lead a little bit, and we are going to get there, but first I want to talk about a famous Foo Fighters story that never seems to be criticized as much as you would think, especially from detractors. In 1997, Foo Fighters released their second album, The Color and the Shape. Now, this was the first album that was being recorded with a band, as the debut Foos album was famously recorded single-handedly by Dave himself. Dave got the rhythm section from Sunny Day Real Estate, Nate Mandel, and William Goldsmith, along with Nirvana guitarist Pat Smear, to fill out his band. As it is detailed in the Foo Fighters documentary Back and Forth, Dave was not a fan of the drum parts that William had laid down for the album, and in secret called Pat and Nate back to the studio to record over the new drum tracks that Dave had played.
I think that William played the best that he could, and sometimes it was great and sometimes it wasn't. If I listen to a song and I don't think it has the thing that it needs, it's not necessarily going to get past me and get on an album.
And then Dave calls me and he was like, dude, don't come down here. And I was like, why? And he goes, I'm redoing a couple of the drum tracks. And I was like, whoa, okay. And I met with Nate. And so I said, what's going on? And Dave's redoing a couple of the tracks. And he goes, is that what he told you? And I said, yeah. And he goes, he redid them all.
Ultimately, this worked out for the better, but if you've ever played in bands, you understand how fucked up this is, especially from a friend. It wouldn't surprise me if more stories came out that Dave is a control freak dickhead at times. But that brings us to why we're all here. Dave Grohl cheated on his wife of 20 years, who he has 3 daughters with, and tarnishing this family man image he had. That has brought light back to the fact that Dave Grohl was married before, and that marriage ended due to him cheating. This allegedly was the reason for Pat Smear leaving the band in 1997, as he was close to Grohl's wife. Other stories have surfaced from after his first divorce. He dated Louise Post from the female grunge band Veruca Salt, who claimed he cheated with multiple partners, as well as a similar story from another ex-girlfriend, professional snowboarder Tina Bassage. It does leave you to wonder, though it would be hopeful that a 55-year-old man who was married with kids could remain faithful to his wife. They got married only a few short years after all of these other allegations. It's not out of the realm that there was some understanding. Though if that is the case, I'm sure having a baby out of wedlock is not part of the deal. Maybe Dave and Jordan have been separated. It's also likely that he was a married man with kids, and despite his career choice, he was to remain loyal to his wife. And I said this in my last video, but if you aren't at the meetings, you can only speculate. What I hope to answer with this video, at least for the fans' part in this, is who is at fault? Dave Grohl or us? Obviously, Dave cheated. Dave is having this baby out of wedlock. This was a self-destructive decision, destructive for his family and maybe those close to him. And everybody's moral compass is calibrated a little differently, but I don't think this boils down to a separate the art from the artist conversation. I don't even believe this does anything to his nicest guy in rock title. Not that that even matters. Dave has a history of cheating, but who cares? Maybe he's a bit of an asshole, and honestly, I would hope so. Because Dave isn't a god, he's a man, a human being. And I'm not saying that to exempt him from his wrongdoings. That's between him and his family. And I think the cracks are starting to form for what celebrity means in 2024. This was shocking to so many because it didn't fit the mold that we created for Dave Grohl. And maybe it's time to stop putting celebrities on these pedestals. I believe that all those good stories about Dave Grohl are true and genuine. I believe that he loves his kids. I don't think he flew from Australia to LA back to Australia so he could attend a father-daughter dance and play a show all within 48 hours so the world would think that he's a good dad. Dave Grohl is the nicest guy in rock. He's also a bit of an asshole, just like you and me. Are you done with Dave Grohl? Or do you think this whole thing has been blown out of proportion? I tried to quiet my bias as much as possible, but Dave is one of the celebrities I have love for. I said in my last video that Taylor Hawkins passing away was one of the only celebrity deaths that I had a bit of a tough time with. These guys were a big part of my teenage development. Anyway, thank you for checking out the video. Let me know if there is anything you would like me to talk about, and I'll catch you in the next one. Shiny side up.